So last time we looked at basically we completed all of the assessments 1.1, 1.1, 1.3. Okay, so now we're just going to complete this section 1 today, and we're going to see the merit 1M1 and then the distinction 1D1. Okay, so first one is the importance of data classification. We have to assess the importance of data classification, and in this we are basically going to see why data classification is important, and basically what are the levels of like how data is classified in what levels, how many levels are there. So data classification refers to the process of analyzing data, both structured and unstructured, right? Remember we discussed types of data, right? And semi-structured, structured, unstructured, and other types of data. So like basically analyzing all of the data, whether it's structured or unstructured, and then organizing that data into defined categories, okay, based on its contents, file type, and other metadata characteristics. So suppose that in your PC, in your phone, there is data. There's a lot of data, okay. Like for example, you have images, you have videos, you have MP4 files, you have MP3 audios, right? So these are basically how data. This is all of the data type, right? All of that is data. So this underpins adequate data security and data management programs in an organization. So for example, a company could classify its data as restricted, okay, private, or public. Okay, these are the data classification levels which we will see later. That basically in a company there is a lot of data and not every data is to be seen by everyone, right? I do not want my employees to see some specific part of the data, so I could just restrict it and maybe make that data private and the public. Okay, so public data would be the least confidential category. That means that it's not really that secure. Okay, like for example, the public cafes have the public Wi-Fi. So all of that data which is coming into that Wi-Fi, coming out of that Wi-Fi, it's an example of public data. And it has the lowest security requirements, obviously, because it's public, anyone can access it. And restricted data would be the most sensitive data. Why? Because it's restricted to only some people or just one person. And that means that only a specific part of people can access them, okay, access the data. And then data classification organizes internal and external data. So if you remember, we discussed what is internal and external data, right? Into different categories based on their level of sensitivity, how sensitive is that data, and business value. Okay, so by labeling confidential data sets with classification tags like top secret, internal, or public, that means like if you watch movies, for example, you might have heard this word top secret or seen this whole sentence top secret written on the files, especially in the movies. So what does this mean? That means that it's not to be seen by everyone. Okay, it's top secret. That means that only a handful of people can access that. And internal or public, all of these are also classification tags. Okay, so organizations can consistently apply appropriate cybersecurity controls, like security controls. Okay, access protocols. Who is going to have how much access? And who is not going to be who's not going to have access. So storage guidelines and retention policies. So data classification allows for tailored data protection. Okay, so if we classify the data into categories, we can protect the data and manage it more better. Okay, of a sensitive information like personally identifiable information. So if you remember what is personally identifiable information for PII, it's your information, like how we basically identify a person, your name, address, CNIC, your all of your basically your own, like a person's data. Okay, your address, whatever it is. So that is PII, or protected health information, PHI. That means like you go to a doctor, okay, and you have had some tests, for example. So all of that comes in the protected health information, like how many, tests have you had your entire life, like what is your which diseases have you had basically. So this is all like the examples of data classification. So the question arises, why should data be classified? Why should we classify data? We can just, put the data anywhere, everywhere, and we could just, access it. But why classify this? So there are several key reasons organizations should take the time to classify their data assets. So first one is identify internal confidential data. Okay, organizations, companies, they have a lot of data, and obviously not every data, as I said, is supposed to be seen by everyone. Not everyone should access that data. So that comes under the confidential data, like customer social security numbers. Okay, for protection, your CNIC, it's a part of you. It's like it basically identifies every person, and every obviously person, every um person in the country, or even like all of the people around the world have this, the social security number or their ID numbers, which differentiate them from other people. Then enable data access roles and authentication based on classification levels. So that means that you can basically enable the data access role for some people in your company, in your organization, that these people, they can access the data and the other ones they cannot access it. And then you can basically use the authentication method. So for example, they might have to, if they want to access the data, they have to go through a process of authentication, like for example fingerprint or eye scanning or something like that. Then determine regulatory compliance. That means that you need to comply with data laws as well. Okay, for the General Data Protection Regulation (GDPR), these HIPAA and other data privacy laws, because every country has laws, every country has some certain regulations that if they are not met, then there can be serious circumstances. Then last one is reduce storage costs by applying tiered backup plans per classification type. So that means that you need to basically store your data and obviously have a backup plan. Like if something happens to the original one, you at least have a copy of the data. And there are other several key reasons. So simplify and improve e-discovery or legal requests around sensitive data. That means that you can discover online, okay, and support data retention schedules aligned with data sensitivity. So in short, formal data classification policies underpin adequate information security, okay, and data management to governance strategies. And why is data classification important for businesses? So the same reasons, but data classification ensures that companies comply with regulatory compliance obligations. Any company that we give our data to, Netflix, or even, okay, let's take the example of your phone number, okay, your mobile number. Your mobile number is given to you by a company. You did not acquire it on your own. Okay, so let's say you have this number by Jazz or Ufone or other companies. So these companies, they are responsible for basically giving you the numbers, and they are responsible for keeping your data. So they need to comply with some regulatory compliance obligations, some laws, and basically to develop security. Okay, obviously you cannot just give the data to anyone, right? Then it helps businesses prioritize data protection efforts, okay, improving security and regulatory compliance. And the classification also helps to reduce cost and boost user productivity and facilitate prompt decision making by eliminating unnecessary data, right? So if there's any unnecessary data, the company or the organization can just eliminate that they don't need it. In addition, sensitive information should be and often must be by law stored securely, right? Any sensitive information, your number, your everything, like how all of our information is stored in the NADRA database, for example. Okay, so it's up to NADRA, it's up to these companies to securely store our data and delete it from company databases after a defined period. Okay, so let's say I'm not using my SIM anymore. Okay, I switch to a new number. So obviously, if I'm not using the SIM anymore, I could just go to the company's that company, and I would just tell them that I'm not using this anymore, so you can just delete my data, okay, from your database, so it's not there anymore. Businesses must create data categories and apply security rules to avoid breaking the law. Okay, so implementing data classification and security policies can help organizations identify the level of security and privacy protection, right? Because if you like classify your data into different levels, whether it's public or protected or internal or anything, that this can help you implement the security policies as per. If it's public data, then it's not really that secure. So that means you're not going to implement too many security policies. But if it's top classified, like top tier data, then obviously you need to implement security policies. So what are the advantages of data classification? The first one is well-rounded data security. So data classification helps to protect your valuable data and improves data security. So once you identify the different data types in your network, okay, you can separate your sensitive data from general data. Okay, your sensitive data will only be, you can make it available to only yourself, and then the general data can be made to your employees or the public, for example. So this allows you to prioritize your security measures, okay, and adjust your security controls based on data sensitivity, and find out who can access, modify, or delete data on your network. Obviously, if you give everyone the authority, the right to access the data and even change, modify it and delete, then it could get into the wrong hands. And as the last one is assess all risks. and threats such as ransomware, breach. Sometimes companies have the breach of data. The next is usage rights. So data classification informs you about the sensitivity of your data, right? So as I said, that you can like classify your data into public or top tier or confidential, and this can in return make you like allow you to understand who should or shouldn't have access to what types of information you have, okay, both inside and outside your organization. Then next is increased awareness. So data classification makes your employees more aware of the types of information they handle and the data's value, right? So they can also recognize their obligations, right? If an employee is working in a company, it is up to them, it is their obligation to take care of the data whatever they are using, okay, and they need to be more aware of the fact that whatever information they're handling is it's confidential and it shouldn't be used outside of the organization. So it leads to optimized security budgets too. And next one is end user empowerment. That means that classifying data empowers users to bring security to the front of your organization. Okay, so when you add visual labels, okay, to headers and footers, you increase user awareness, which helps employees to be more security focused. All of this is related to the employees in an organization, how they should be, aware of this fact. And this knowledge will help them make better decisions about handling data. So if they are well aware, and then they can make better decisions, they will know how to handle data, okay, such as not sharing sensitive content via email, right, cloud services or USB drives, because that can be hacked. Anyone can just get into the system and take that. And then next is improved regulatory compliance. So businesses are required by law to protect specific types of data, such as the personal data of European Union residents or credit card information. Very important. Your credit card is your personal data. It's just like your CNIC or social security number. Okay, so data classification allows you to identify data subject to particular regulations. So you can apply the required controls and pass audits. Even the data that is in our bank accounts, in the specific banks that we have our bank accounts with, it is up to the banks to comply with the regulations and everything. So here you can see different data regulation authorities, the EU General Data Protection Regulation, okay, the HIPAA. All of these are different data regulation systems or the authorities. They basically help classify data and information so businesses and organizations can better manage the customers' data. And the next is efficient resource allocation. So rather than applying expensive security measures to all data, companies can allocate resources to focus on data that requires the highest level of protection. What does this mean? It means that basically companies do not need to allocate all of the resources to protect all of the data. The data which needs to be actually protected and secured, companies will only efficiently allocate that resource into protecting the data. The other data, it cannot be you cannot like allocate resource for that because it's not important. The next is improved data accessibility and visibility. So organizing data employees allows employees to quickly find, access, and retrieve necessary information. Obviously, if the data is organized, if it's structured, it can help the employees, it can help anyone if they're looking for some part of the data. And obviously, next is it can boost productivity and reduce time wasted searching for files. The next is data lifecycle management. So classification helps determine how long data should be kept, okay, for how much period of time, and when it should be securely destroyed. If, like, for example, I gave the example of my SIM, okay, which I'm not using, so I can just go to this company and tell them I'm not using this, so you can just destroy my data, okay. Then can also optimize storage costs. And this is the data classification chart that is being discussed from the previous slides, right? So if you can see that there are 4 different classification levels: public, internal, confidential, and restricted. And what is their risk level? Okay, the risk level is low, moderate, high, and critical. The details, impact if imposed, like there are only 4 levels of how you can classify your data, and we are going to see them one by one. Okay. So data classification levels, they basically categorize data or information based on its sensitivity, okay, how much sensitive the data is, their value, and the risk of misuse. If the data was breached, what would happen? Okay. So basically we can, determine a proper security controls. And basically the 4 common levels are public, internal, confidential, and restricted. So these categories help organizations protect data, okay, and the companies or organizations can actually use this data classification chart to help them identify which data should be made public, which data should go into the internal level, which should go in confidential, and which should be restricted. And this segmentation is crucial for protecting sensitive information, right? And optimizing resource allocation for data protection. So first one is the public data. We know that public data, if we remember, we have learned about public data, right? That means it's accessible to anyone. And it has very low security measures. That means anyone can access it, anyone can do whatever they please with it. And it has no potential for causing harm if externally disclosed, okay? And this data is typically accessible by anyone inside or outside the organization, okay? And does not require encryption or special handling. For example, the census data that these census people take, okay, from every house, how many people are living there. So that census data is released publicly to everyone. Everyone can just go and look at that data. So it's public. And you can see the examples as press releases, publicly available financial data, okay, marketing materials, etc. So public data may not need stringent security measures, but still requires basic data integrity practices to ensure accuracy and prevent unauthorized modifications. Okay, that means that if it's public, other people should not be able to modify it. Okay, because they don't have the authority. The next level is the internal data. So internal data is information that is meant for internal use. Okay, it's not for public disclosure, it's not for external use, although its release is unlikely to result in significant harm. And this level is used to control access within the organization. Okay, it's if it says internal, that means just understand it's for within the organization. And avoid information leakage that could potentially benefit competitors. Okay, many companies, they don't release their data publicly because they have this, they like, if they obviously release their data publicly, their competitors can gain hands on that, and it could be harmful for that company. So examples include internal policies and procedures. Obviously, you don't want your competitor to know what policy you are using, what procedure you are using, the training materials, etc. So access controls and user authentication are commonly applied to protect this type of data, right? Which people have access, and the user authentication, that means that whoever is accessing it, obviously if he has access, that you need to authenticate, okay, through fingerprints or any other method. So ensuring that only employees of that organization can access the information. Then the third one is confidential. Confidential data includes sensitive information, as from the word confidential means it's sensitive, and that it could cause harm to the organization or its customers if disclosed. Okay, so that top secret data, that top secret written on the files, if you see in movies, that is confidential. That means it's not for everyone to see. Okay, so this level requires stringent security controls to prevent data breaches and maintain trust. And examples include personal information of employees, right? If any employee is working in a company or organization, their data is confidential. Obviously, it's like an internal kind of data, but not obviously all of the employees will not have that personal information of other employees. So it comes in confidential, and customers' financial records, legal documents of the company, for example. Okay. Encryption, strict access controls, and audit trails are essential for this data, protecting this data, and breaches of confidential data can lead to financial losses, legal penalties, and reputational damage. Then last one, the level is restricted. So restricted data comprises the most sensitive information. Okay, it's the most sensitive. That means its risk, its level of risk is very high, and it requires the highest level of security. That is why it comes after the confidential data. Okay, and due to the severe impact its exposure could have. So this data often affects the safety and financial stability of the organization and its stakeholders. And examples include trade secrets, right, classified project information, sensitive government and military documents. All of these are restricted data examples, which, if disclosed publicly or to any person, can create a havoc. And the restricted data often necessitates end-to-end encryption. That means you're going to encrypt it with some key that only the other person who has the key to access that data can access it, both at rest and in transit. Includes multi-factor authentication. Okay, like you can use the 2FA or MFA, strict access policies, and detailed monitoring to detect security incidents. So these were all the data classification levels. And next is we're going to see this 1D1, the distinction that evaluate the importance of data to an organization. So basically, it's all of the same thing, okay, which we learned right now. So if you see the reasons why data is important to an organization or any business, first, informed decision making. So the ability to make informed decision lies at the nucleus of effective business strategies. If any company, if any organization does not look at their previous data, how they were performing over the years, then it cannot, then they, whatever decision they make, okay, it might not be very useful. So that is why data provides a compass for decision makers. Okay, offering a clear understanding of market trends, what is happening in the market, what is the consumer behavior, what do your customers expect from you, okay, and internal operations. So this in turn empowers leaders to make choices founded on concrete insights. Next in importance is understanding customers' needs. Obviously, through the customer data, you can understand your customers' needs, what they are looking for, what do they want from you. Okay, especially if you are doing an online business, it can prove to be very helpful. And any business or organization can tailor their products and services to align with their target audience's specific needs and desires. The next third one is enhanced marketing strategies. So businesses can harness marketing data to craft targeted campaigns, precisely reaching the right audience. And analyzing data enables the optimization of marketing strategies, ensuring a higher return on investment and heightened brand engagement. So that means that if you are basically developing any strategy to, market your brand more effectively in the market, your data can help. Okay, in this case. Then next is optimizing product services. So product data serves as a compass for innovation and improvement. So by scrutinizing product performance metrics, like how your product is performing with the customers and looking at your customer feedback, which is very important as a business owner, so businesses can refine and enhance their offering. And in the case of, let's take the example of online businesses. For example, you bought something online from the online store, okay, and you just gave your feedback as good or not good, and that specific person who is selling that product can look at your feedback, can look at the performance, and decide if they want to enhance their products, make their product and services more useful, okay. And even if it's like trending, okay, if it's meeting the market demands or not. The next is strategic business planning. So analytics data serves as a strategic compass, allowing businesses to navigate future uncertainties confidently. You can basically use an Excel sheet and go to your like enter all of that data in the Excel sheet as we saw. So in that Excel sheet or in the Google sheet, you can make a pie chart or bar graph to represent your data. Okay, that can help you, like how much good are you performing. And organizations can position themselves by identifying trends, forecasting market conditions, discerning potential challenges, and mitigating risks. The next is efficient inventory and supply chain management. So data, if used, like if you have classified the data properly and correctly, then it can help you with your inventory and supply chain management. How? It can offer you real-time insights into stock levels. How much stock have you left? And do you need to restock, okay, this specific product? Demand patterns, how many people are demanding this product right now? Is it really that good? Like how much people have bought this, and logistical processes, okay. So this operations and ensures the streamline operations and ensures timely deliveries, right? Enhancing customer satisfaction. And then optimizing employee performance. So let's say you want to look at the performance of your employees, who has performed the best this month, who has performed the best in the last 3 months, in the last 6 months. So employee data acts as a compass for effective workforce management. And if you have seen like how, for example, some companies award their employees for being the best employee of the month, they are using the data to track that specific employee's performance. Okay, so by tracking performance metrics, identifying training needs, and fostering a conducive work environment, businesses can optimize employee productivity, right, and contribute to the organization's overall success. Okay, next is cost reduction through efficiency. So data unveils inefficiencies within business processes, right? Like if you, for example, you have a business process, you implemented something, and your data can actually reveal basically inefficiencies, that something is not, right with this business process. So it can act as a guide for cost reduction. So identifying and rectifying these inefficiencies leads to streamlined operations and significant cost savings. Okay, so you basically know how much budget you are going to allocate, how much savings do you have, whether you need more budget or not, and etc. Then next one is risk management. So by analyzing data, businesses can identify potential risks early on. If they look at their previous data, if they have, allowing for proactive measures to minimize or eliminate these risks, okay, and safeguard the organization's stability. And then last one is competitive advantage. So your data can basically give you a competitive advantage over your competitors who don't use this strategy. So leveraging data effectively provides a competitive advantage, and businesses and organizations that adeptly analyze and apply data insights, they become more agile. They become more, fast in responsive to market dynamics. Like what is happening in the market, they know quickly because they have used this data. And this adaptability positions them ahead of competitors, right? Ensuring they remain at the forefront of innovation and customer satisfaction. So, if we see some examples of data used in businesses, first one is the Netflix content recommendation. So, whenever you open Netflix or YouTube, whatever you are seeing on the YouTube and the search bar, that will come on your recommendations. Okay, and then Facebook's personalized content feed, whatever type of post you like on Facebook, whatever reels you see on Facebook, they will come in your personalized, like in your feed the next time you open the app. And lastly, example is healthcare predictive analytics. So all of these are different examples of data used in businesses. So this was all for this lecture. I'll see you in the next lecture, inshallah. Okay. Allah Hafiz.